Welcome to the One State Solution podcast. My name is Alon,
I'm Elik.
and we're both anti-Zionists, even though it says Israel on our passports.
Yes, I guess we're gonna say it each time, huh?
Yeah, just to make sure that everyone knows where we're coming from. Okay, so in this episode, we wanted to kind of talk about our own experiences as people who were born in Israel, Jewish. And as we perceive it, we were kind of born into a cult, the Zionist cult. And we kind of want to talk about our experiences growing up in this cult. So, Elik, do you want to say why we chose this subject?
First of all, I wanna say that this podcast is also for me, it's some form of therapy because I'm still in the process and I recognize that it's not just an intellectual process, it's psychological, spiritual, and it's not easy, and I'm going through many ups and downs. And even though, and I thought like, okay, I will start to talk about it, I will feel better.
Yeah.
And I will break this wall of like fear in one shot. And it's not like this for me. You can say you're like a witness to my protest and
Yes.
supporter of my protest,
Yes.
my process.
Yes.
And
Your process and your protest.
yeah,
Your process of protest.
yeah, exactly. That protesting is part of the process.
Yes.
Um, and I feel the fact that we meet every week and we talk about this and we're shooting it on camera, it's for me it serves very important part on on this process, and
Yes.
I really need it. And I thought that it's also interesting historical evidence what we're doing. Like I thought if I was not from here, it would be interesting for me to hear from a person who was
Yes.
born inside and started to seeing stuff differently, and all the mental stuff that he went through. Like sometimes I feel it's like narcissistic to talk about ourselves right now, but what can I do? It's
Yes, there is a poem in Hebrew, רק על עצמי לספר ידעתי,
yes,
by Rachel, if
yeah,
I'm not mistaken. I only knew how to tell about myself. I only know how to tell about myself. And this is true. We only know how to tell about our own experiences in the end.
yeah. It's not because we think we're the most important. It's just the thing that this is the thing that can bring most like
The most original, like the most original angle on, by definition, in some sense, right?
Yeah.
Because it is our experience.
Yeah.
But I also want to say that for me, this conversation is kind of a way to, because we had these experiences of, like, it's weird. It's weird to think, oh, I was born into a cult. It's weird. Why me? But I also want to say that I think that everyone was born into it. We were talking about how the entire world is just an intricate web of different cults in like different ways. Like there is the patriarchy, which is a sort of cult. There is I see capitalism as a sort of cult. We can talk about this because I know that we're not in 100% agreement here. But Zionism is a cult. I think human supremacy is a cult. I think white supremacy is a cult, Western supremacy is a cult, and other religions are cults.
And I add statism.
Yes, statism, I agree as well.
Okay. Yes.
So my point is that because everyone was born into several cults simultaneously, I think it is very important to discuss this process of releasing yourself from an ideology, from like a certain world perception that limits the way that you look at the world. And I think that the process that we went through is so like extreme in some sense, because the cult is so extreme. We happen to be born to such an extreme cult that this process can shed light on other people's processes.
Yes, because I think it's true that everyone, like, I think understanding what cults you're part of,
Yes.
it's a process that any person should do. It's not, and I think for many people now it's very easy to see the Zionist cult because there's genocide going on and
Yes.
a
Yes.
really big group who support it and don't and think like they're so detached from reality that they think they have to do it or they have some moral justification in doing it, and most of the people looking at it and like, what the fuck are they doing? Like they don't accept the excuses and then they see, okay, these people are part of some weird cult because for us it's really not acceptable
Yes.
to behave this way. But I think it's always like this, that it's easier to spot it on others. And I'm not saying it's not true. It just keep it to your awareness if you listen
There
to
are two
us.
more expressions in
Yeah.
Hebrew. One of them is הגמל לא רואה את הדבשת של עצמו, which is the camel does not see his own hump.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is טול קורה מבין עיניך, which is take the webs out of your eyes.
Yeah.
Which both mean kind of the same thing, which is first of all you need to look at yourself.
Yeah.
And see what kind of oppressive or supremacist systems and ideologies you are part of, and then you need to look at other people. Always you need to do both because you want to make yourself better and you want to make your environment better, but always you need to do both.
Yes. And I think like why I think for many of my family and friends they will get really like it will really be difficult for them to hear that Zionism is a cult. Because it's like cult is, you never want to be a member of a cult.
Yes.
And it's like there are a few terms like this, and it's interesting, like because I think many people, there are many things that you don't want to be a part of. Most of the people wouldn't want to say they're racist. Most of people wouldn't want to say they're colonialist. And I thought that about colonialism, it's kind of the early Zionists had no problem with saying, yeah we're colonialists. Yeah. Like how we view certain stuff changes.
It changes, and then people retroactively change history to affect to like be comfortable with what happened.
Yeah.
They change his history.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But do you want to explain for a second?
I just want to say about what you said. I think basically there is no cult in which the people say, yes, we are in a cult. The leaders would never say this is a cult. This is a cult. The members would never say this is a cult. If they get to a situation where they actually say that this is a cult, then if it's a member who says it, then they would leave. If it's as soon as it is possible for them.
Yeah.
And if it's the leader, then the cult would dissolve immediately because it breaks the spell.
Yeah.
And I think this is why when you understand this abstract principle and you understand this historical fact, which is 100% of cults did not admit that they were cults. 100% of people who were in a cult never didn't admit that they are in a cult, or admitted it and then immediately left. So you have to see things from the outside. You have to think, hold on, am I in a cult? And if people tell you you are in a cult, you have to take it seriously. It doesn't. Sometimes people use it offhandedly and in a very irresponsible way just to make some point in an argument. But sometimes it's for real. And I think in the case of Zionism, it is for real. And people have to kind of consider the possibility, what if it is my friend? What if this person who is arguing with me and telling me that I'm part of a cult, what if they're actually on my side? What if this is a cult and they're actually on my side? You need to consider this very seriously before you say, oh, it's nonsense.
Okay.
So this is a few things about cults, but the main subject was our experiences with this, right?
Yeah, I think maybe through our experience it could be revealed why it is a cult, and I think it's a subject we're gonna touch. We touched it before, like, and we're
Yes, a
gonna
few times
touch it,
already.
or in like, I don't know if we're going to make an episode especially on that, but I
Yes.
think it will continue to pop up, you know.
Yes.
Um,
So we wanted to start from this song, right? So I want to tell you that when I was on my way over to Elik's place, I was driving and on the radio. This is like mainstream radio, Reshet Bet, I think it was, like mainstream, even government funded radio. I heard a song, and the song is called Malachim B'Madim, which is angels in uniform. The moment I heard this song, I waited to the next traffic light and I sent a link to Elik because I was like, this is ridiculous, this is crazy. And I let Elik listen to it. What was your impression of this song?
It's like, you know, it's sad because first of all, I liked the music when it started.
Yes, I want to say that we will link to this song
Yeah.
in the video. It's on YouTube. You can listen to it, and maybe I will also upload it to my Instagram page with like subtitles in English, because it's really crazy. So the music is good. Music is good. I like the music as well. And who's the artist?
The artist is a singer named Kobe Aflalo. And I like his voice, and I like other songs of his. Like, I think he's a good musician.
Yes, Elik reminded me of one of his songs, Shir Ga'aguim, song of, how do you say Ga'aguim in English?
Longing?
Of longing, song of longing, maybe, yeah. So I was like, oh, it's the same artist, I love that song.
Yeah, and one of the sentences like, today I break the silence with thought. It's kind of ironic with
yes, because I heard this song a few days ago, and he sings Hayom ani shover shtika, today I break my silence, to his loved one, I think, about his love for her. But I connected with this song. Yes, I break silence every day about the fascism in my country. And then it connected in my... I remember when I heard this song a few days ago, I was like, I wonder what is the political position of the... And now we got our answer. So let's go back to this song. What do you think about this song, Angels in Uniform?
First of all, we heard this song many times, not this song, but you know, the image of the beautiful Israeli soldier who playing the guitar and love life, and then he have to go to fight to protect what he loves,
which is life. They
life.
Kill for life. This is the main message. They kill in the name. They go on uniform. They wear the uniform in the name of the fighting spirit, which will never surrender, and in the name of life. In the name of life. So this is I think it's very revealing. Because I think all the Zionists, okay? All the Zionists, even the most fascist ones, and even the most liberal ones, they will all say, yes, we are killing. They will deny it to some level, but they will admit it to some level, all of them. They will say, yes, we are killing, but we are doing it in the name of life.
Yes.
Some of them will say we are doing it in the name of God, which is another way of saying in the name of life. Some of them will say in the name of morality, in the name of Western values, in the name of liberalism, so forth and so on. But they will always say we are murdering in the name. They won't say murdering, but they will say we are killing in the name of life.
Yeah, and when they're killing, it's in the name of death.
Yes.
You know, like they're killing for death and we're killing for life. And you know what I thought? The irony is, like, he sings about the soldier who is a life lover. He plays the guitar and then he goes. And what did the world see? That this soldier is so psychopathically detached from his victim that he can play the guitar on the ruins of Gaza. That's how much he loved life, that he so much detached from the pain he's causing to the other, that he can sit on the ruins and do jokes and play guitar because he loves life. And for Israelis, they look at him and they think, wow, look how cute our soldiers are, because they love life, you know.
You know what I was suddenly reminded of, and I think this connects us to the conversation because it is like a childhood memory. Okay, in Holocaust Remembrance Day, Yom HaShoah. Okay, one of the messages that they always pump messages to the children on Holocaust Remembrance Day, and also to the adults who are tried. They are trying to keep them as children as long as possible. Um, one of the messages that they pump is like how detached the Nazis were. And one of the ways that they explain this is they say, look, they put classical music like Wagner, right, in the death camps, right? So they were so detached from their own compassion that they could listen to music, to beautiful music, while they are committing slaughter of people. And this is a point that I understood. Okay, I understood this. This is chilling. But for some reason, this guy who is singing about the soldier who is playing his guitar and then going, he doesn't see. He doesn't see this contradiction, and he doesn't see that this contradiction is the same contradiction that he saw with the Nazis.
So why he could see it on the Nazis and he cannot see it?
Because of what we just said, people have a very easy time recognizing the cruelty and the defects of others, and they have a very hard time recognizing the cruelty and the defects of themselves. This is why we have to put in more energy into looking at the defects, unless you have some kind of personality which is too self-criticizing. But it is a very important process to look at our own defects and at the places that we ourselves are problematic, always.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe we want to start with like personal experiences. And you wanted, I think you wanted to talk about Independence Day, right?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about, like I started with saying that it's some kind of therapy and stuff. And why is it? Because for me, I'm having hard time these days. Like the voices that saying that maybe I'm doing something wrong, that I went against my people, against my tribe, that I'm and there's like voices that say, why do you have to talk to the world? Okay, say the criticism to us, to the community. Why do you have to talk about it outside?
Which is what cults always do, by the way. This is another like what we are doing is we're telling about what Zionism, what the Zionist system does, and then I'm like, oh, this is what cults do always. Always.
And it's very, very important for any person who kind of go out of a cult and brainwash to talk first about with people who are outside and who are not in it, to tell him like, no, your intuitions are correct, like this is not okay.
Yes.
And you grew up, and I feel the pushback, you know, and I think a big part of it that there's many things and people and relatives and friends and culture that I love about this place. Like big, huge chunk of my heart, you know, is here. And many childhood memories that back then I didn't understand, you know, because for an Israeli, the Palestinians are, how do you say, like absent, that they are
present and absent.
Present and absent.
Yes.
And then I think like for like the experience of Independence Day, that for me, like we were meeting all the family and friends, and it's only, I didn't have it a lot, but this is really felt like a tribe meeting, and we were singing like Israeli songs from many different times, and and there's this conception inside the Israeli society that okay, we're left wing, we're right wing, but we're all in this together. Basically, we're all agree about Zionism, and inside of this, you can have the people who want two states, the people that doesn't want, but we can always speak to each other. And this is the voice that always say like, talk to us, tell us our criticism. But I want, and I feel but my criticism is outside this thing that's considered to be part of the allowable discourse inside the cult. And then what do you do in this situation? You try to talk to them, you try to, like, I still figure out my ways, kind of, but I understand that it's not an easy process, and it's not only like that you did it once and that's it.
Yes, it's a long process.
It's a long process, yeah.
Yeah, I want to say a little bit of context for our discussion, because Elik and I have slightly different stories with the Zionist cult. In some sense, I always felt outside. Okay, so you can say maybe it's just a coincidental thing, like my personality structure, my personal history, my idiosyncrasies created a situation where I always felt kind of outside. Okay? But maybe it also had to do with the fact that something in me felt that all the things that were going on around me were kind of wrong in some sense. I don't know. It's really hard to know this, but I know that always I felt like I was outside of it, and always I felt like I was criticizing what was going on from the outside. And this, let's say, this became more and more deep and complex. Like I learned more and more about the history of this place, and to this day, I'm doing this process of deprogramming, reconsidering what I think is true, and finding out what is actually true. And I'm finding out that a lot of it is false, if not all of it. Like in some sense, all of it is stained with lies and deception. But the point is that from a very young age, I felt like I was against what was going on at some level. And you tell a different story of like waking up at some point in your adult life, right? So I think it's good that we have these two different stories, because we can give like two different angles on what's going on here. And this leads me to like another goal that I think we should have, is that, as we said, when we want to get to some sort of solution to this problem, if we want to improve the situation here, this path will always lead us to some kind of discussion with Zionists. Okay, we need to talk to them at some stage in some way, and understanding the way that they think, and understanding the way that they were sucked into this cult is very important. And what this cult does to them, it's very important, so that we can understand how to talk to them. And when I describe my process, maybe we can say, oh, how can you avoid being sucked in too much? And when you tell your story, we can say, oh, how can you get out of it if you were already sucked in a little bit? So this is two different angles that can give us, and there are many stories, and I think listening to the stories of people who left this cult, or who are on the verge of leaving this cult, is very important, because then we can understand how we can help more people avoid it.
It's a good point. And yeah, I thought now like that this cult demands your loyalty since when you're being so young. And I think part of the reason, how do you make people get used? I remember I'm thinking about like stuff that kind of breaks your
like cracks,
and they can be very small. Like now I just suddenly remember that I was traveling in Europe before the army, and I was talking to some guy.
How old were you?
I was 19,
Okay.
and I was traveling in Slovakia. I had back then like an Austrian girlfriend that I met. She was a volunteer in a kibbutz. I did
Okay.
1 year of volunteer before the army,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, this is also example how they suck your life. You do so many years that you are basically being enslaved.
Yes, we will talk about the
We'll
army.
talk, yeah.
This is another subject. Maybe
Yeah.
we will do a whole episode about the
Yeah, but I
army.
remember like I was talking to some guy that in Slovakia in a farm, like some ecologic farm, and I told him, yeah, we live, there's an army, it's 3 years of service, and then people once a while keep going until they're like 40 something.
Yeah, this is the reserves force.
Yeah, and he was like a simple dude, and he was like, so why do you live in that country? And I remember that
You didn't have an answer.
I didn't have an answer, and I was ashamed that this didn't even occur to me to think like this.
Yes.
Like a normal person was like, okay, there's a state machine that sucks
Yeah.
so many time from your life.
Even if we don't talk about morality, about the
Yeah.
Palestinians,
Yeah.
like don't even
Justice.
talk about the Palestinians.
Yeah, and that it's
Yeah.
like, and you're forced to do it.
Yeah.
Like, how many countries that we know that people are forced to go to the army? Just
Yeah.
this,
Just this, yes.
So it's being normalized, and it's being normalized that it's going to be like this
Forever.
because this is our fate as Jews, not because the Zionist state works like this. This is our fate as Jews if we want to live. That's what it tells you.
You know what popped into my mind right now?
Mhm.
Because we are talking about experiences with Zionism, and I see that all the memories are coming.
Yeah.
Things that we didn't think about for a long time, and now we can look at it from a different angle. And I remember when I was young, when I was maybe 6, my parents kept telling me again and again, they said it a lot. They said, when you grow up, when you are 18, so the default assumption would be that I would need to be drafted to the army because but they would say, no, when you grow up, we will not need an army anymore. This is what they said to me. And this was the 90s, okay?
It's the Oslo Agreement.
Yes,
stuff.
Oslo Accords, peace agreement with Jordan, peace agreement with Egypt a decade earlier. Shir LaShalom, זוכר?
Okay.
Do you remember a song for peace? This was on this was one of the most famous songs.
Yeah, and no, but you need to say something about this song.
Yeah.
When Yitzhak Rabin was martyred,
Yes.
this was in his pocket, the words of the songs, and there's a stain of blood, of his blood on the, and it became super famous.
So there is a narrative, and I want to ask you what your opinion is about but I want to close the point with my parents. So they would say, when you grow up, you will not need to join the army because we would achieve peace. And this was the atmosphere in the 90s. In the mid 90s, this was the atmosphere. But then they stopped saying it after a few years.
Right, they stopped.
And I was drafted, and it was no surprise. And this promise, no one thinks this anymore.
No one thinks that.
Now the general attitude is, yes, we will have to fight for our existence here all the time, forever. We will live on our sword. And I wonder what would happen if I asked my parents, what do you think about those people who told me, the past selves who told me that I would not need to be drafted to the army. And now it's almost 30 years later, and things have only gotten worse.
It's tragic.
What do you think now? I should ask them.
And I think that, like, because the Zionism was supposed to bring the Jews at some point to a place where they live in security and peace. And it failed.
Yes.
It really failed. And I wonder how people... And then I had a question, why Israel react in such a surprise after 7th of October? Like, you keep telling your children that we live on our sword, that we're in a perpetual state of war.
Yes. They also use it in their arguments.
Yeah, but somehow they still expect to be safe. And I don't understand if you're say we don't believe there's going to be peace. We don't think we should actively seek it every single day that we breathe. So why are you expect when you get war? And there's something, and I think part, and this is the cult thing. It's normalizing the unnormal, and you wish the wish to live
Do you
a
think?
normal life inside a super unnormal situation.
Yes. Do you think they were genuinely surprised about October 7th?
I don't know, like you don't think that it was real surprise that there was a real honest shock that I experienced myself because I was also part of this normalization. Like you know, I lived here, I planned my life, and I thought, okay, I have to be honest. Now I come out as some kind of a hero or something. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Most of my life, I didn't do anything in a system that now, when I'm kind of woke up, it looks to me like same thing as slavery in United States. Same order of evil.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
And people like here live and think, okay, I can live with it and say one in in my left wing, do virtue signaling sometimes.
Yes.
And then go on. Like that's how people here live. So I don't know.
Yes, I had a thought after like October 7th. I had a thought about this party, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Nova party.
Yeah.
Where like over 200 people were murdered. In like horrible ways. And I had this thought, maybe some people wouldn't like this in Israel wouldn't like this thought because this is now sacred. You can't talk about it. You can't actually talk about it. You can't because we're in grieving. Okay? But if I want to actually talk about it, I want to say that if I wanted to write the plot to a kind of horror movie, in which the point is you cannot keep you cannot put a lid on the boiling pot and expect, I don't know, the monster, I'm mixing metaphors, but whatever. You cannot expect the monster to not come out. I would write this plot. Why? Because think about the drama, okay? So those people, like thousands of people, are on the Gaza border. They are on the other side of the walls of the huge concentration camp, open air prison, whatever you want to call it, that they fucking built for a population that they've been oppressing for generations.
That they created. This camp. They expelled people into this camp, surrounded it by fence. Like people think like as if Gaza is it just happened.
It popped up. Oops.
Yeah, it just happened to be the most populated place in the world. Just this, as if it's a natural occurring place that grew up like that. Developed like natural places develop.
Yeah. So they are on the other side of this prison that you said we are all guards in this prison at some point.
Yeah.
And everybody knows. Like everybody knows that Gaza exists. Everybody knows that the Palestinians are there. Everybody knows that Hamas is there. You see, Hamas. Everybody knows that Hamas is there. Yeah. Everybody knows that they are angry with us. Everybody knows that they want to hurt us.
Yeah.
And still, thousands of people came to a party celebrating life and peace.
Yes.
Love and life and peace on the other side of this wall. And now think about this in a movie, okay? So the drama. So they are there, and the audience is like, and we see also the other side, okay? We see the other side. We see like the people of Hamas organizing, and we know that those people have completely blocked out because what is the point? The point is that for the vast majority of Israelis, the Palestinians do not exist in their minds. They exist as like this vague threat but they don't genuinely exist.
Yeah.
So they don't think about this. And they are here partying.
Uh,
They are partying, I just see the movie, right? I just see the movie on the other side of the wall. Those people are planning the
yes.
attack. How can you be so oblivious?
I don't know. There's many questions. I feel also. You think that like about it also about the leaders and the people like now people talk about Hamas as the devil, right?
Yes.
But okay, if the devil is there and you claim that you knew from before
Yeah.
that it's the devil, so how come you make parties next to the wall and you build settlements close to the wall and like
celebrating on partying on the precipice of hell? That's weird.
Yeah, even if you're a Zionist and you think it's okay, even if you're that mindset, how? And sometimes I think people will say I'm horrible conspiracy theorist. I'm not claiming that they knew, but I think they also knew in some level that this can happen.
Yes.
And from my knowledge of Zionism, how it operates, it needs something to happen from the Palestinian resistance, and then they go for a next step in the project of ethnic cleansing. And we saw it happen too many times to say, so I'm not saying Bibi planned it, or I think maybe it was unconscious.
Yes.
Like, it's not that they said, we let them do something.
Yeah, like but the system works this way.
But we know, and there's some really important Israeli blogger like Idan Landau.
Idan Landau, yes.
He wrote how people from these settlements were writing letters to the government. Listen, we feel unsafe here. Do something, and they were disregarding them. They didn't put guards even on this place that people on the other side are. It's a humanitarian crisis, and there's strong resistance movement that that exists. So I believe this is part of how the oppression goes. Like it deepens, it chokes them, then it waits for the next resistance movement, and then it goes. And I think Hamas knew this.
Yes.
And they said, okay, when the Zionist regime will go for his next full blow, the propaganda machine in the world will collapse.
Yes.
And then they would know, then it's gonna die because it cannot survive for long without it.
such a situation.
Yes. I'm not, it's speculation.
It's speculation.
It's speculation, but it's speculation that
let's just say if they did, then they are evil geniuses in some sense.
Yeah.
Or let's say this. Let's say I put myself in the mind of a head person in the Hamas organization a year before October 7th, 2023. And let's say that I think of this idea, like we need to do this kind of thing, and I predict that this will lead to these kinds of results. And let's just say this is not far-fetched, because there has been a lot of literature like Fanon. We talked a little bit about Fanon, who talks about this is how colonialism works, this is how the deterministic machine of colonialism works. We understand it. Maybe they read Fanon, and they said, if we do this, this will happen.
Yes.
So
many of them read many stuff when they were in jail, I'm for sure. They're very smart.
And they had a long time.
Yeah, they're intelligent people. They're not.
And they are very committed to their goal of, okay, so what is their goal? What is their goal? I claim their goal is to free the Palestinian people. This is their goal. Their goal is not to allow as many Palestinians as possible to live in the short term. Their goal is to free the Palestinian people.
Yes.
And I claim the following. If their goal is to free the Palestinian people and do not to prevent the deaths of Palestinians in the near future, then they achieve this goal completely, I think. And it is not far-fetched to say that this goal was in their mind, and this is why they did it.
I heard one of their spokesmen say we had the choice between fast death and slow death. Yes. This is our choice, so we went to do act that will bring a lot of way more death, but anyway, in a way, we're dying. So I don't don't know. It's we don't pass here moral judgments on the acts. We're just trying to analyze them.
So why did you apologize now? I want to expose this. You apologize now.
Because I'm in the cult.
No, well, because you're afraid of the cult.
Yeah.
And I am also afraid of the cult. I also started having thoughts now. Well, will they say that we are justifying terrorism and bullshit like that?
Yes. The
I
inner,
think one of the main problems of what is going on here is that people here, we said the Palestinians do not exist.
Yeah.
They object to any attempt to actually consider Palestinians, including people who are in Hamas, to actually consider them as agents who make choices, conscious choices, not monsters, and not people who are brainwashed with like ideologies and Islamic jihad religion ideas and so forth and so on. No, they are people who are making choices, and this is true. This is just a true fact, but they will not allow this. And they will not allow anyone to think why the people who did October 7th did October 7th. And we are just trying to do an actual intellectually honest discussion about why this happened, and we are afraid now because we're doing an intellectually honest discussion, because intellectual honesty is a thing that is very much disallowed in fascist regimes, and especially in cults. Cults do not like rational thinking. Cults do not like it when we actually try to understand what is happening and why it's happening.
Yeah, it's like interesting because you really you spotted the thing that I really felt like fear about talking this subject, and I think this subject is like, first of all, maybe it is, you know, we are under pressure, you know, like that everything that tries to relate to Hamas not as only pure evil and nothing more than that, like, is already like act of treason. Like, you cannot even look at them as rational people who try to achieve something from what they do. That, like, they only did it because they want to, for the pure joy of killing and destroying, and
they sanctify death and we sanctify life, right?
Yeah.
Exactly like the song that we started from.
Yes, it's like it's not people who are trying to liberate their own people in some way, and you know, I think it's so stupid because if, like, even if you see them as enemies, you need to understand how their mind works. You need to understand what they want to achieve. Like, you don't get anything by looking at them this way, but this is the only way we're allowed to see them. Pure evil, we need to destroy them, and there's something very cynical about it, because I think why we need to look at them this way, because if they're pure evil, it's also for sure that it doesn't matter how civilians we kill on the way when we try to destroy them. Like, I feel, and sometimes I don't know, but I feel sometimes this is really like engineered, you know, like to teach us how we're supposed to look at it, and it happened immediately after the 7th of October, like all the settings of how the average Israeli supposed to view.
All the propaganda points were already there on 7th of October.
Yeah, and it's like it was on demand, like poof, like that's how you need to look at it. And every person who tried to say like, hey, let's try to understand why they did it, why this is like nothing, you know, like they're not human beings. When we act from pure good, they act from pure evil.
Yes.
And then everyone who try to pass criticism on us is part of them, and that's why they are pure evil. And that's why I feel threat, because it means, in some sense, that maybe someone will try to hurt me from. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen, but I feel the threat, and that's why I felt scared, and that's why I immediately felt like, oh, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
And like, it's stupid because of course I'm not supported. I don't know anyone who supports what happened in the 7th of October, the killing of innocent civilians. No one from the even the most radical pro-Palestinian person that I talk to says, yeah, the killing of civilians, even though if you support the struggle of liberation and you see Hamas as a resistance movement, but I didn't meet anyone. Maybe there is, yeah, but I think they're really
They're rare.
they're non-significant minority. Most of the people know, say, okay, this was immoral, but we still know the context and we know
Yeah.
why they're doing it. But
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
So the thing is, what you are describing here again, it brings us back to the subject of cults, because this is what cults do. Okay, I think maybe the most prominent characteristic of cults is that there is this narrative. There is the in group, the cult members, and of course the cult leaders, and there is the out group. And the in group is always the good ones, okay? We are pure. We are good. We know the truth. We were chosen. We saw the light, and so forth and so on. And everyone who is in the out group is pure evil. Anyone who is from outside the cult is either ignorant or evil or lying or blind and wants to destroy us and is an enemy. So this is the way that cults operate, and this is the way that cults maintain their structures of control and domination. Because if you are one of the cult members, this kind of narratives makes you afraid of anyone and anything that is outside of the cult, and then you will want to go deeper and deeper and deeper inside the cult. And this is what we see. In the last few months, ever since October 7th, we see that the cult members of Zionism have become even more entrenched in their own narrative of we are good and they are evil, because they are scared of the consequences of what will happen if this pure evil of the out group will manage to actually destroy us like they always planned. Okay?
Yeah, I feel like, because in a way, I feel every cult have this self-destructive mechanism.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Because I think it's based on in a way of like ignoring something very very basic about your reality. And like what we talked about it, like you make a party next to huge prison that you're ignorant about this history of how this prison came about. Most
Yes.
of the people in Israel doesn't know even about the history of the Nakba and why the people there are so angry and frustrated, and why they dream to come back to their houses, not because they have some myth that they really got expelled from the places we live in. They really, since they got expelled and been locked in this place, their life is miserable and shitty, and they have no prospect for their future.
Yes.
And there are people just like us who cannot dream about personal life and individualism and developing their own career. Like the vast majority of them, maybe there are a few who like have some wealth or something, but the vast majority cannot even dream about this stuff.
Yes.
And we are completely ignorant about this stuff, and that this ignorance is kind of, when you're so blind to reality, there's consequence to this.
Yes.
And each time there's the reality have some pushback to your denial. What is your response? You want to tighten this denial.
Yes, you deny harder and harder and harder
until and then like the outside world starts to see, and it starts to and the whole structure that you built is starting to collapse. And I feel this is what happens now. Like
this is what is happening.
Like I feel I don't know, I'm not a prophet, but I think Zionism this is the beginning of the end, and I'm not.
Many people are saying this.
Many people are saying this, and it's this. I feel a bit like I pity my friends and all this, that they don't see it.
They are trapped inside this.
Because if they would see, even if you were saying like, okay, I want Zionism to survive, but at least see that it's dying, so
Yes.
you can
Resuscitate it, yeah, do
prepare your own from egoistic point of view. Prepare your future, because this is what's happening now. It's
Yes.
not going to survive. It's unsustainable, and something new is about. And this is I don't know. I have an optimistic part, and I have also fear of how it's going to collapse. Because
Yes.
if it's not going to happen by peace and reconciliation, and it could be also
very
horrible.
violent.
Very violent.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is already very violent. We must emphasize
the worst case scenario is happening right now, but
the thing is that the Zionists think that it can be violent only in one direction.
Yeah.
This is what they thought before October 7th, that it can be violent only in one direction, but it cannot. Violence always works both ways. Right. And I want to just take what you say and put it like in the context of courts, because this is kind of the subject of what we're talking about. This is always what is going on. We talked about this narrative of the good versus the evil. The in-group is the good and the out-group is the evil. And the thing is that this is, as we said, not true, and always not true. It is never true. Such simplistic stories are never true, even though they are pumped into the minds of most Western people through movies, simplistic movies like superhero movies, right? We have the good fighting the evil, okay? Yeah. But this is a whole different subject, how this connects to like Western supremacy and the myths of the West and of liberalism and so forth and so on.
The enlightened Western culture against barbarism and all that crap.
Yes, but let's not go into that, because that's that's a whole subject within itself. But the point is that this is not true, and because it is not true, you have to sustain this narrative, so you have to ignore all the things. You have to ignore, deny, and excuse and filter everything that doesn't fit into this narrative. There is the narrative. The narrative has like neat boxes in it, and then there is reality, which is hyper complex and does not fit this narrative. So you pick and choose what kind of fits the narrative. You ignore everything else. You take the things that kind of fit the narrative, you change them enough so that they can somehow fit inside the narrative, and then you take the thing and you push it hard into the narrative, you hammer it into the narrative, and then you get a coherent narrative. But this thing is not sustainable. This thing will always, the best definition of truth that I heard is that truth is the thing that doesn't go away when you try to ignore it.
Yeah.
So the truth is that there are actual people on the other side in Gaza. There are actual Palestinians in Gaza. There are actual Palestinians in the West Bank. They are actual people with actual goals. They actually can think, they actually can plan, they have objectives, and they can carry out these objectives. And this is the truth. And when you try to ignore it, when you try to paint them as monsters, then reality will keep hitting you again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And so again, this is a process that happens all the time with cults, and this is always what leads to the collapse of the cult. Reality creeps in and creeps in and creeps in, and you try to keep it away, and you try to keep it out, and you try to keep it out, but in the end, it will win, and then the cult will start to collapse, and then outside forces will start to contribute to this process of collapse of the cult, and it will disintegrate. And I think this is what we are starting to see here, and this connects back to what we said. This is the genius of the leaders of Hamas. If they predicted it, and as we said, there is a good chance that they predicted it, then they knew before October 7th that this is what is going to happen, that they are going to push a button, and this button will start a deterministic process that will lead to an acceleration in the deterioration and the dissolution
Yeah.
of this Zionist cult that is the basis of their oppression, and therefore it will lead to their freedom.
Yeah, and I think if you know how it worked before, it's not so difficult to predict it. Every time they did something, the Israeli response were like 10 times. I don't know how much, like millions times more.
Yeah.
And I think because it's kind of a bet, because Hamas, they could also destroy themselves, because it was very big and very cruel, and at the first moment the world was against them. But I think they knew that the Israeli response gonna be so much more horrible.
Yes.
That the world is gonna forget what they did, and that's what happened. Nobody gives a shit now about this.
Yeah. And this is why the Zionists have to keep making up more and more stories
they
about.
Keep look more ridiculous, because they use something that happened in the past. Okay, something horrible.
Almost 6 months ago at this point.
Yeah, and they keep saying it, but yeah, you are doing the horrible thing right now. So don't tell
way more horrible in any objective sense.
In any objective, like the torture, there are already tons of evidence of sexual assaults in prisons to women and men inside, like in the detainees. Like everything is coming out. And it's things that the Zionist movement did through all around history, but now like people try to start to see it, and the smoke screen of the propaganda falls, and you just see the crimes, just state crimes in the most brutal, and nobody wants to listen to the excuses. And like friends tell me, why you show it, like why you don't represent the Israeli side. And look, when you do this kind of stuff, there is no Israeli side anymore to person who's doing stuff. It just excuses, and nobody like to hear excuses of a criminal. Nobody.
Yes.
And that's what's going on right now. And yeah, I don't know where it's going to lead. I hope that after this horrific chapter, there's gonna come up, like, what we're trying to bring, like one state that of people who live. But sometimes I look at what's going on now, and I think, like, how can I expect these people who suffered what we did to want to live with us? Sometimes I feel such a despair that I don't know. I think maybe we're just dreamers. I don't know. I really hope
this is a very difficult question.
They will be able to forgive us. I have no idea. I want to believe, I hear a lot of Palestinian speakers now, and I feel a lot of admirations to them, and I want to believe that they will be able to, like Nelson Mandela said, we're gonna ניסלח ולא נשכח. We will forgive, but we're not going to forget what you did.
Yes.
I hope.
Yes, I think that the Palestinians are, by and large, much more noble and forgiving than the Zionists. But this is a whole discussion within itself, and I want to go back to what we were talking about. It is a very important subject, and maybe we should do a whole episode about this.
Yeah, about forgiveness.
Yes, about forgiveness. What does that mean? But I want to go back to what we were talking about, because we need to ask ourselves how such blindness to reality can be sustained. Okay? And when we were talking about the Nova Party, I remembered another thing that from my own personal history with Zionism. So, until a few years ago, it was just an experience that I had, but now I see it in a different context, and you will soon understand. About, let's say, 8 or 9 years ago, I was already a leftist, okay? I was already against the occupation. Maybe I didn't call myself anti-Zionist, but I was quite aware of
Yeah.
what was going on, the oppression of the Palestinians and of what was going on in Gaza. This was after Protective Edge in 2014. This was after 2,000 people were killed in Gaza, and after I strongly objected to what happened in Protective Edge, and I talked about it for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and saw the reactions of my friends, which were like, many of them justified it. I had a lot of arguments. So I was already aware, in some sense, of what was going on. And there is this festival in Israel, an indie music festival, Indie Negev. You know this festival, right? It's very famous.
Yeah.
And so I went to this festival. And I didn't even know where it was. I was like, okay, Indie Negev, everybody is talking about Indie Negev, they want to go. I was like excited, okay, I want to go as well. So I bought tickets, and I got tickets for the shuttle there. And I go on the shuttle from Jerusalem. I was living in Jerusalem at the time. And we start driving. And on the way, I'm like, okay, where are we going exactly? I didn't really know. And then it became clear to me that the festival is happening basically on the border with Gaza, on the wall.
Yeah.
Like maybe 5-10 kilometers away from the wall.
Yeah.
And I remember that I had some thoughts about this, like, oh, this is weird. We're going to a party near Gaza? Like, Gaza is supposed to be a dangerous place, and being near Gaza is dangerous, right? That's what my parents told me always. This is a dangerous place. I was never in that area before that. But I was like, okay, this is weird. This is scary. Is this okay? I was like, okay, everybody around me is doing it. Thousands of people are going to be in this festival. It must be okay. And I went there, and it's a 3-day festival, and I had a lot of fun. And for the most part, I managed to kind of push out the entire thing. I remember that there were like moments where I was like, what is going on? Yeah, we are near Gaza. This is so weird that we are near Gaza. But to be honest, I didn't think much of it. It was not like, a red light that blinked powerfully and I couldn't ignore.
Maybe I performed in this time when you were there. I don't know if it was
really?
same here. I had a band,
Okay. So you know Indie Negev pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, and I had similar thoughts. And the irony that the band I performed, it doesn't exist anymore. But part of our objective were to create peace and it was.
So what was the name of the band?
Sabil. We still have an album. There's an album, you can check it out. It's cool.
Okay.
I think it's cool. It's cool music, like kind of Eastern techno mixture of like electronic, like fusion of like Eastern jazz. And but we didn't have a Palestinian member in the band.
Yes, this is what I was about to ask.
Yeah.
A band that is about peace, bringing peace.
Yeah.
But you don't have a Palestinian member. Yeah.
We didn't. We wanted. There was some point where we were seeking to find there was really good intentions there, but it's part of the situation, the system. You still do party next to Gaza, and nobody really, the whole existence here is about denial.
Yes. Okay. I need to say something about this.
Yeah.
We live where we live. Okay? We were born in this land and into this society, into this system, into this cult. Okay? What do people do? They live. Okay? And you have to live. You have to live. Where are you going to do?
Yeah.
So, and you have to cooperate with people around you, and you have to talk to people around you when you want to have relationships, and you want to have friends, and you have family, and you have a job, and you have a career, and you have dreams, and you have hopes, and you have whatever, normal life. Okay. Yeah. For us, usually normal life. For the Palestinians, not. Although it is very interesting. I don't know enough about life in Gaza to know how Palestinians deal with this completely bizarre situation.
Yeah.
Like bizarre is the only word that I can think of now. It's a weird, like it's not a word that actually describes what's going on.
But
But let's call it bizarre. How do they deal with this bizarre situation? But I know that the way I dealt with this bizarre situation, as aware as I was, and as anti-oppression as I was, and as far left as I was relative to people around me, you still have to live in this society, and you still have to talk to people in this society, and you are still affected greatly. But by what is going on around you? Even the most independent of thinkers is affected by the way that people talk and think around them. And there is just like no way to continue living without ignoring what is going on, because what are you going to do? You're not going to solve it yourself, and you try to talk about it with people around you, but they will make up these excuses, right? These excuses that are this tool. Okay, so yeah, this connects to what you said about the world doesn't want to hear the excuses of Zionists. Why? Because these excuses are not meant to influence anyone from outside Israel. This is what they pretend. They pretend it outwardly, and they also pretend it inwardly, that Hasbara, Zionist propaganda, so-called Hasbara, is something that is meant to influence people from outside.
You think it's more for
it's
the inside?
much more for the inside. Those excuses actually work for Zionists who want to believe them. They do not work for people who are just looking at the situation from outside and saying, what the fuck is going on here, right? They look at the crimes, and they are appalled, and they hear the excuses, and the excuses, as you said, do not work. Who do these excuses work on? The people inside the cult, who need those excuses to continue holding this narrative, because when they stop holding this narrative, when the spell is uh, is disappears, then they cannot live their normal protected life anymore. They will have to go against the cult. They will have to leave the cult, and this is very, very scary.
And maybe also to confront horrible things that they did, that their parents did, that their grandparents did, that their best friend did, that their uncle did.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, I wasn't a combat soldier, but I was part of something very, very shitty, and I have to take responsibility. And
yes,
and like I don't look at it lightly about the so many years that I ignored it, because I tell myself, and I say, like, you knew what's going on. Why didn't you do anything? And I don't think the fact that I'm speaking now makes me be like spared of judgment. I was part of, and I had many activist friends that did stuff, and I was like, no, I want to develop my own. And okay, like I think I now I understood, and I speaking up, and I'm trying to do stuff. Of course, it's better, but like you need to face what that you were part of systematic evil. You were the prison guard of the Gaza prison, of the West Bank prison.
Yes.
You are part of this propaganda machine. You're part of it.
Yes.
And it's not nice to admit, so most of the people wouldn't want to admit such.
So I just want to emphasize how hard it is to admit it, because the narrative is that we are pure good and they are pure evil, and if you acknowledge reality even a little bit, then you find out that if anything,
it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
But we need to be careful, because we're not pure evil. Like, I see many hatred going on now towards Israelis, and I can understand why, because
of course we can understand why. We also feel it in some sense.
And we talked about it in the good and evil episode. Maybe there's no need to repeat it, but we need to have compassion and understanding for people who grew up in a. It would happen to anyone who grew up in under system of propaganda, and under a multi-generational trauma that is passed, intentionally.
Yes.
Like they don't want us to heal our trauma, the
Yes.
people who are perpetuating this. So
Yes,
yeah.
we let me try to say it in a succinct way. Because we have 7 million people here who are in a certain situation, who grew up in a certain society, and who are in a certain situation, and we look at Jewish Israeli society, and we see that, let's say, 99% of the people in Jewish Israeli society are, in some sense, part of Zionism. The amount of people who are not who took themselves out of this cult is very low. Yeah. Very low. So when you I analyze this and I say, okay, so this must be a systematic problem. The only way that you can say, oh, 99% of the people are part of this, and this is their own fault, is if you say that there is something inherently evil about people who happened to be born to some group. And this is, again, not true. It is just not true, as we explained in great depth in episode 3, Good and Evil.
Yeah, and there was always also racist explanations for the Holocaust. It's something inherent in the German culture, and we know that it's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
It passes, different nations take shifts on who are gonna be like the bastards of history. Now it's us.
Okay, so as usual, there is much more to say about this subject, and we will, of course, continue talking about it in future episodes. But we hope that through listening to our experiences as people who were born into this cult and lived in it basically all our lives, that people can understand more about what is going on specifically here in this cult, why the members of this cult are behaving the way that they are behaving and doing the atrocious things that they are doing and speaking in the way that they are speaking and making the excuses that they are making. But also, we hope that it helps people look at their own environment and at their own behaviors and see how they are part of other cults, maybe cults that are more, or let's say, less blunt about everything, more subtle. Okay. And especially, I want to say to the audience, please notice that you are part of the cult of human supremacy, and please notice that if you are contributing to the industry of non-human animal exploitation, i.e., buying meat, dairy, and eggs, then you are part of a cult that is way worse than the Zionist cult, and I want you to consider it very seriously, please.
Yeah, because of him, I'm getting out of this cult. Inshallah, I will stop consuming anything that's coming from animals. It's happening, but I still have relapse once here and there.
Okay, so this was a thing that was important for me to add.
I'm happy you said it.
So maybe if you have final remarks before we close this episode up.
I said in the beginning that it's kind of a therapy for me, and I really feel each time I speak like this relief of I'm speaking about it. I'm saying my thoughts. I'm allowed to speak my thoughts because I think, I don't know if I'm always right and if everything I say here is true, but one of the things that I feel that cults do to you is that you're not allowed to speak your mind.
Yes.
And we are free people. We can speak our speculations, and you don't have to be. And I want to encourage people as well to speak. Whoever you are, you have the right to speak your mind.
Yes.
And each time I have this red, light that's telling me,
No,
Like
stop,
don't
stop, stop. Yeah.
like I'm like fuck you. Like, this is part
Of the therapy.
the part of the therapy, and yeah, and each time I feel I understand more what's going on through the conversations with you,
Yeah.
and a
Through
lot
the
of
reactions that we are getting.
yeah, and I got to so many interesting conversations with people all over the world. So I see it as part of a large conversation that we need to have, you
Yes.
know, as community, large community of
Yes.
people.
Not just about Zionism, about all the ways that the world needs to be. I don't want to say fixed, but improved.
Yeah, more cooperative and less hierarchy. How do you say?
Hierarchical.
Hierarchical and
Yes.
less violent and more, you know, and more and with less barriers between like you know, so many Israelis cannot even think about the option of just sharing society with Palestinians as
Yes.
equals, but it's so stupid because I know like it could be ended tomorrow. I feel
Yes.
like
If we just wanted to.
yeah.
So again, we want to. One of the reasons that we are doing what we are doing is not just because we want to speak our own mind, which is important enough within itself, but because we want to encourage other people to do the same. And we believe that the more people speak their minds, it allows more and more people to actually speak their minds, actually be authentic about what they are thinking, what they believe, and we want to encourage more and more and more people to do so.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for listening to this episode of One State Solution. Anyone who got this far, our deepest gratitude. So,
yeah, peace, justice.
yeah, peace and justice.
Yeah.
Great.